Boom. What up, dude?
What is up, Stuart Grazier?
It's we're both it's dark outside for both of us right now. Like we're on the same time zone. We're recording on the same time zone. This is amazing.
It's really weird. It's really weird. I don't know. I don't know how to handle it. And the great thing is, it's only going to be for one more day.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. No, it's awesome. Been here in Colorado, transitioning my family, and just remembering how much I love it here. And it's kind of bittersweet because I'll be heading back to Maryland tomorrow, and the family will stay here. So it's almost like it'll be like a mini geo batch, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'll be back a couple times, but yeah, man, it's crazy. It's been awesome being here. It's been awesome seeing you. Did our webinar yesterday together, which was rad. It
Yeah.
was really cool.
Yeah.
Um,
Got to hang out a little bit and do some family dinners and family hangouts and
yeah,
paint some bedrooms. And I know you've
yeah, it
been
was
doing a lot of
awesome.
other stuff, getting your family ready to go, getting them all set up for school. And
Yeah, it's been crazy, man. It's been a whirlwind of a week here. Well, actually, we left 2 weeks ago, spent a week in Wisconsin, and then one of the things that's been on my mind quite a bit is this podcast is faith, family, and financial freedom. And a lot of times we talk. Obviously, we always talk about faith. Um, we talk financial freedom quite a bit, and while we touch on family, we haven't really done a podcast that is focused on parenting necessarily. I mean, we've done like the had some guests that talk about some of the things the challenges facing our families and our children. Um, but this, it's been on my mind a lot lately. Because I'm trying to figure out how to. One, I'm always trying to figure out how to be a better dad, right? And to especially with a couple of my
you need
children.
a lot of work, dude.
Dude, you joke, but I mean, I oftentimes go to bed like, man, I failed as a dad again today.
Yeah.
Um, but I
we
feel like
we
that a
could
lot, dude.
we could fill a whole podcast with just dad fails.
Oh man, it's crazy. But I think as I've been thinking and praying about this, it's been on my mind a couple reasons. One, I have to maximize for these next few months. I have to really maximize my time because I'm not going to be here present, and so that's a stress in and of itself. And a lot of our guests who deploy and or even if you travel a lot, I mean, it's something that you have to contend with. But also, what kind of human beings are my children gonna like? I'm looking forward, right? I'm looking ahead and seeing what kind of human being am I? What kind of influence am I giving or am I being for my children? And is that gonna benefit them? Are they gonna turn out to be, you know, upstanding citizens? Or are they gonna maybe go to jail? And I don't know. Any given day with my boys, it's a flip of the coin.
Oh man, they might kill
dude
each other.
dude, I tell you, man, I mean, like, and I'll be real, last night they were just being so terrible. Erica erica went and she's like, I just have to go for a walk, and she's was upset, and the stress of me not being able to be here to kind of help out with that and here in a day. I mean, it's real, and this is what families have to deal with. And it's also it's forcing me to think like, okay, what is it that we can do? How are my reactions to my kids? What are they learning from the way I react? And we one of the really cool things that I think so when we reached out to the schools out here, they gave us a book recommendation, and this time a lot different than we did in the past. As we were driving across the country, um, where the kids would watch a movie. I mean, because we did a 16-hour drive to Wisconsin, then a 16-hour drive to Colorado,
Man,
and so we do that a lot. We drive a lot, but
yeah,
this time they'd watch a movie or whatever, and then we read this book. Erica would read chapters at a time of the insignificant events in the life of a cactus.
That's a great
So
title.
yeah, insignificant events in the life of a cactus, and Dusty Bowling is the author, and so we'd Erica would read to everybody in the car, as we're driving down the road, and then we'd stop, take a break, and maybe watch another movie, and then read this book, and we crushed it in like a few days because it is awesome, awesome book. I highly recommend it. Great family book, but really it was a the the book itself had so many lessons in it, and it opened up the door for conversation. And actually this book even has questions in the back, and really what why I highlight this book is it was a very intentional choice that my wife led to, get into this book, read it as a family, and we all loved it, dude. I'm like trying not to cry. We're driving, and I'm like, maybe just skip this part.
Then I would definitely be crying
Oh,
if
dude,
you were.
you'd be bawling, man. But it was such a powerful book, so good, and it made me think of a couple things. One, I want to highlight the book itself, and it's just a basically the theme of the book is it's about a girl who has no arms. She was born with no arms, and just what a child has to go through when you have no arms. Everything from things that we try to teach our kids, like, okay, you see somebody with a disability, don't stare, and how it, but it's from a first person point of view, so she reflects how she feels when people stare, or when they when they're engaging her, and then she ends up kind of making friends with quote unquote some misfits, and not misfits, but one kid that she meets, because she's, I don't want to give too much away, but she's basically goes to a new school and is eating in the bathroom because she's so embarrassed, because she eats with her feet, and she just doesn't want to deal with the looks, but very confident, amazing little girl. And so she goes to the library, and this kid starts barking at her. Well, this kid ends up having Tourette's, and so the book delves into like that whole thing, and somebody from her point of view, somebody with Tourette's and what they have to struggle with, and then there's a kid that the kind of the third part of the trio is this overweight, um, this overweight kid who's going through his own struggles, and they kind of come together, and dude, it's awesome. Like I'm like getting like choked up thinking about the book itself, because it's such a great book. But besides the fact that the book is amazing, it just opened up conversation to with the kids, and it really made me reflect on what am I doing intentionally as a dad?
Hmm.
Like, what are the activities that we're doing to engage our children, to engage them with content that is meaningful and powerful, uh, engaging them with things that will drive conversation and kind of higher meaning, higher thoughts, higher purpose. And it's funny because like Jake, I mean, you know my kids, so you can imagine we're in the minivan, it's me driving and Erica in the passenger seat, and then Noah's right behind Erica, Maya's behind me, and then Jake's in the back.
Yeah.
And so I look in the rearview mirror when she's reading, and Jake's like he's like looking around, and he's looking down. He's like all over the place.
Squirrels, kind of like his
Squirrels
dad.
everywhere, dude. Squirrels everywhere. And there's no squirrels, dude. We're just driving, and
Yeah.
he's finding squirrels. And then Noah is like, I, he's, I mean, he's 4, so I don't expect him to be like engaged and whatever. And then Maya's like totally dialed in. Um, but what they pick up, all of them, what they pick up is amazing. Like
Yeah.
we'll stop reading, and then Jake will like, it's just how he listens, dude. Like it's just who he is. And he's like, well, what about the? I mean, sometimes he's like, what's the book about? You're like, dude, we're like chapter 18, and then, but a lot of times he's like, very much, you know, all right, so Avon doesn't have arms, and so how does she, and he just engages. And then even Noah, man, he's like, he would say things as a 4 year old, like, oh, I wonder, how I would eat with my shoes on. Like, I mean, he's picking it up, but it engaged the whole family, dude,
Yeah.
for hours driving. And it really was a lesson for me. And it really was something that forced me to think, okay, like, what we need to do more of this type of thing.
Mm.
And and how can I find, because it's, dude, parenting is an active activity. It's
Yeah.
not passive, right?
Yeah.
You have to be active, you have to be intentional. And I think a lot of us aren't, man. A lot of us are would rather, a lot of times I feel like we'd just rather not deal with our kids. Like,
Yeah.
here's a device, plug in, and, like, let me have a breath.
Yeah.
But that's not the way it's intended to be, I don't think.
Yeah, man, parenting's hard. Um, and it's I thank the Lord every day for my wife, and um, what she's dealing with every single day when I'm going and playing Navy, and we have our own challenges, right? But um, my shorter span of time with the kids, my patience gets tested to no end, and I can't even imagine what happens to my wife on a daily basis. Well, I do know, because I walk home and, like, she's frazzled to all get out, and here, take the kids, I'm going to my room, and but there there is some amazing lessons to be learned as the children grow. And you're right, man. I think being intentional about engaging with your kids is so important. And it's challenging right now, because there are so many ways, there are so many distractions, and there are so many things that um, that they could do and pick up on, that you probably don't want your kids to be a part of. But that's like kind of the easy road, the easy way out. And it's just like anything else, like in business, or like if you want to get in better shape, or with your health, like it's intentional, like daily actions, like getting 1% better every day, that's going to get you there. It's that same with parenting. Like, you got to be intentional, you got to be doing daily actions, engaging with your kids on a daily basis, to teach them the things that you want them to grow up and be amazing human beings, just like you and I, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
You're right.
just like you and I.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Like you and I.
No. So there's one thing that Crystal and I, so you talking about books that you've been reading. There was a book that Crystal and I decided to start engaging with, and it's more of it's not like a book that you read front to back in a span of a week or whatever, or 2 weeks. It's a book, like, it's well, I'll just show it to you. It's Teaching Your Children Values, and it's a super old book, but it's a book that, like, you go like one chapter at a time, and then you practice it, like you engage with it. And for Crystal and I, like, we really want to ingrain values that we believe in, and then we want them to enact on those values and live by those values. And so this book really kind of breaks down how to teach those values to your children. And so we will take a value, and let's just say one of the values we chose early on was kindness. And we intentionally have a family meeting every single week, and we typically have been doing them on Sundays. And we sit down, and we there's some examples, there's some like how-to guide stuff in the book of, like, things to do, things to talk about, depending on the age of your kids. But you sit down and we just have like probably a 30-minute family meeting. We talk about that value. Like, what does kindness look like? What does kindness not look like? Give me some examples of kindness. Maybe, or maybe like we watch a little video, like a little video on what kindness is about. And we have, them give us examples of kindness and or what they've done this week or what they've seen this week. And we really just have conversations about what that looks like. And so we do that every weekend for a month, and just hit like on one value. And then at the end of the week, each week, we give a kindness award. And it's, I mean, it's just like a piece of paper that Crystal, my wife, just made up. She just got like some graphic and put it on a piece of paper, and it's it. It's just a piece of paper that says like kindness or something. And we all get a vote on who gets the kindness award for the week. And and even like, I mean, Wells, my 3.5-year-old, is like noticing us do kind things, or noticing his big sister do kind things, and he gets a vote. And so it's really cool how they start engaging and voting. And this piece of paper, this kindness award for the week, is like the biggest deal ever, right? And they have a huge smile on their face if they get voted to get the kindness award. They like hang it on their door for the week. And it's just like, it's super cool, man. And so that's been like really, really fun for us, to really just start engaging and be intentional about teaching values to your kids.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that. And I think what's really cool, and it's like anything, right? It's when as business owners, a lot of times you and I are like, okay, shiny object, shiny object, shiny object, and we hear about strategies and we hear about these different things, and we're like, oh, I want to do that. Oh, let's do Airbnb. Oh, let's Airbnb. Oh, let's do flips. Let's do turnkey. I mean, all these different things, right? Let's syndicate a deal. And I think parenting is very similar, because ultimately, when we're as entrepreneurs, we're trying to be the best that we can be, and we're trying to maximize ourselves and our potential. And I think as parents, we're trying to do the same thing. And so, like, I hear all these different things
Yeah.
that people are doing. I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do that, and get overwhelmed. And I'll tell you, and the only reason I bring that up is to encourage our listeners to say, just pick a couple things.
Yeah.
Just pick a couple things to really focus on. So like, we got away from it, but we'll be doing this when I move back in here, when I move back to Colorado. But one of the things that we've loved, and the kids looked forward to it, was date night.
Mm.
We dated all our kids, and with three, it kind of gets, I think what happened is we kind of went, we went all in, and it was each, excuse me, each parent was doing, like, we were trying to date one kid every week. So it was like 2 date nights, and we're trying to work our date nights in there. Excuse me. And it can, you can go too big, and then you stop. And I love what you're talking about. You focus on these different things, and whatever it is in your family. And I look at people, I look at like Marcus Long pops into my head, and some of the things that he does with his kids, and some of the financial stuff, and with the spreadsheets, and that family. I'm brain farting on. We had him on our show, the Navy family, daughter, dad and daughter combo. Wrote the
Oh,
book.
Doug Nordman.
Doug, thank you,
Yeah.
Doug. The things that they did, and
Yeah.
he
To
was
teach
very
financial literacy.
focused. Right. And so he was like, his big thing was financial literacy. Now, were there other lessons that he taught his daughter? Yes, I'm
Yeah.
sure. But that was like the focus. And so I think, just like on a business enterprise, as you're moving forward as an entrepreneur, and you have a focus and you're laser focused on that thing, I think as a family, when you set out your core values for your family, you focus on things, and this is just the way my mind works, to put things into action. And I would encourage all of our listeners to pick a couple of those things and just put them in action.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's time, and then our our faith and our values, and how do you incorporate that, right?
Yeah.
And then there's some financial freedom stuff, and some, you know, my desires to have my kids go through a real estate transaction by the time they're 12 or whatever. And these things, but I'll tell you, it's so important to pick. And I love that you guys have picked that book, and it's something, because the kids do get excited, man. Whatever it is
Yeah.
that your family's about, the kids will embrace it, they'll grab onto it, they'll look forward to it. And I'll tell you, nothing's worse than, my daughter's like, "Hey dad, are we gonna go on a date again sometime soon?" I'm like, "Oh man,"
Yeah.
because they're so good. And I'll tell you, the it's fleeting, man. It's fleeting. And what's kind of hitting me is my daughter's 10 now. I blink and she was just a tiny little baby, and she still likes to, before she goes to bed, to snuggle and we talk, and it's awesome. But dude, that's gonna go pretty quick, man.
Yeah.
Like real quick. And so these are formative time that, if we're not intentional, I'm a lot of these books I've been reading recently, these autobiographies, these super um, business, important business people. Like I just did the one on Steve Jobs. I did the one on Robert Iger, the Disney CEO, and I'm reading this one now. It's called Titan, and it's the story of Rockefeller. And inevitably, in all these books, it talks about their family and their kids and their influences. And I'll tell you, man, it's those are the parts that really have been sticking out to me, is those elements of these very powerful people's um, lives. And it's just it's an interesting, it's an interesting filter that I uh, just naturally has is applied when I'm reading these books. And and you can miss out, man. You can miss out. And typically what happens when you miss out is the kids don't turn out amazingly. They don't even turn out healthy at all. And then there's always regret.
Yeah.
There's always regret on the behalf of, regardless of how, you know, influential, powerful, successful you are. If the family dynamic thing is not what you desire, then there's regret.
Yeah.
And and it's just an interesting thing that that I'm looking at now, and I'm like, I don't want that regret. I
Right.
don't. I don't. There's. It's not worth it.
Yeah.
Nothing's worth that.
Well,
And so,
there's a one of our guests, Bill Militello. We were talking to him, and this always is sticking in the back of my mind. And we talk a little bit about family on the podcast with him, and I remember him saying that um, your children aren't going to remember all the days and the nights where you're in front of the computer working on your business, quote unquote, for them, or to create, you know, financial freedom. Like your kids aren't going to remember all the time that you were working to create this amazing life. Like what they're going to remember are the times that you spent with them, like doing fun things, like going on date nights, having family meetings, and engaging and interacting with them. And that's not necessarily creating this huge, amazing business that's building financial freedom. So there's got to be like this balance, and I think that that's what you and I are kind of like figuring out as we've built this business over the last 3 years, and created this, you know, machine. Is what's most important? Like, is it creating this monster of a business that's going to, be really, really successful? Or, and, our kids are going to see us early mornings, late nights, working on the computer, telling them that, we don't have time for them, being on our phones, sending emails, talking to investors? Or is it engaging with them and having conversations and going on date nights? And, whatever, like just kind of what you said, like the biggest thing is just choosing something. Like it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be this book, it doesn't have to be your book, it doesn't have to be whatever, but like being intentional, taking action, and like really engaging with them on a daily basis, to have like conversation. And one of the things, I had a meeting when I was in Texas with just an amazing guy, and if he's listening, I'll call him out. His name's Chris Rush. Um, and Man, we just had such a great conversation about being a dad. And he's got 3 older boys. They're kind of growing up now, and one thing that he said and I was telling him about like how we were doing this, the value thing, and um, he's like, as your kids get older, right now you're doing like story time and you're reading books to them every single night. He's like, don't stop that. Like, engage with them daily. Like, at some point you're going to stop reading books to them, but then reading books to them, like reading kids books to them, turns into uh, going through devotional with them, or doing Financial Peace University with them, Dave Ramsey, or going through a book in the Bible and like doing a Bible study with them. But like, do something with them on a daily basis and have daily conversations, to talk about like life and to teach them values and to really engage with them. And as they grow up, when they get into like teenage years and they don't want to, like, it's not cool to be hanging out and snuggling with dad, they still are getting engaged, and you can really see them grow and learn. So that's something that's on my mind, is just continuing to have daily conversations and engaging with them.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about action items, and something that I need to get better about as well, and it's that calendar.
Yeah.
And we talk about time management, right? You talk about time management. We talk about things like this all the time, and and I'll tell you, go back to your checkbook and your calendar will tell you what's most important. Uh, those things should be scheduled in, and I
Yeah.
go back to that Life and Air, the Life and Air book. I encourage it. Steve Cook, amazing book. But when we interviewed him, we he basically said, "Hey guys, this is my time slot," and it was like, I don't remember what it was exactly, but it was like 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock his time,
Yeah.
every day. And he was like, "Look, if we start at 2, like 3 o'clock is drop dead hard stop." And everything was built around his kids. It's like, I go to pick up the kids, I do this, I do that. Like, it was built around that, and because he was living what his book is about.
Yeah.
He was living it. He was very committed to it, serious about it, and we knew what the left and right bounds of that interview were going to be from a time perspective, because he it was very, very clear, and he honored his calendar, and his calendar honored his family.
Right.
And so um it was a very good lesson learned for me, because it's, and again, just going through that book recently, uh it highlights the things that we do. We are very intentional with our time. It just depends on what you prioritize and where you put it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the context of that story, you see, I mean, he does it very well. He frames it very well on how, the impacts, and we see it, dude. You see it. You can see it and I see it, like with my kids, for example, when I do plug them in. Man, I think we talked about this yesterday, but they're terrible when they come off their devices.
Like when
Like,
they're watching their iPads or something.
yeah, when they're on their iPad, when they're on some kind of device,
Yeah.
when it's time to put them away, it's almost, it just from a behavior perspective, it's better if they never do it.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I get it. If you have to have your time and you have to do something, like, there is that. But a lot of times that we plug them in, you don't have to. There's not a
It's just
have
because
to.
it's the easy thing to do.
It's convenient. It's and I'll tell you, we even, you and I talked about this yesterday, and when we talk about action items and we talk about finding your why, and we drove down to, we were in the car for a couple hours together, and a lot of the conversations were, on our way back, were, okay, how do we structure our business to honor the things that are most important to us? And we talked about our 10-year plan, and we have to refine it, and we really have to nail down, like, where do we want to be, you know once we get out and our focus, because we want this business to enable the things we want to do. So like, for example, one of my goals is to take an annual trip for 1 month and
Yeah.
be gone for 1 month in the summer. And it's not the whole, it's not because I want to be baller vacation. These aren't going to be baller vacations, right? I'm not going to be, I don't have desire to stay in 5-star hotels and all that kind of stuff. What it is just time. It's time to take my family and just be gone just with them and have an experience, something they'll take with them for the rest of their lives. Can you imagine like when you're a kid,
Yeah.
if you went on month-long vacations and maybe part of that vacation was to something, you're serving in an orphanage or whatever. It's like a lot of the stuff that John Laney's doing, and then you go do some fun stuff, but it's very intentional. It's time, it's investment. And so how do we build a business that enables that? Like,
Right.
that's important. We both know we want to do that, so we have to figure out how to build a business that will support us being gone for a month, and
Yeah.
maybe even two. If I go in June, you go in July, like, the business has to be able to survive that. But again, and I choose those words intentionally, it has to be able to survive that because those are their priorities.
Right. Right. Yeah. Something else that kind of came to mind, and we're talking about all these action steps that we're doing to be intentional with our kids. And I think some of the things that that need to also kind of be discussed here is um, the things that you're doing for yourself that you allow your kids to see, and also the things that you say that you allow your kids to hear. Also, very intentional and actionable, but um, you know, stuff that's important to us, like is being healthy, and exercise, and doing hard things and challenging yourself. So like I want my kids to see that I'm exercising. I want my kids to see that I'm reading books. I want my kids to see that I'm, being intentional about what I put into my body, like what I'm eating, that I'm not having desserts all the time and candy and treats and chips and all that kind of stuff. And I want them to see that I'm going for runs in the morning and waking up early. And I want them to see that I'm going to go climb a 14er and doing like hard things, that are challenging myself. I want them to be at the end of a finish like line for a race, that I go and do. So I think, allowing them to see the hard things will get like ingrained in their mind that they're going to go and do that stuff. And same with like what you say. Just the other, I mean, there's like little sponges, right? Like I think it was last night at dinner, we were sitting around, um and Wells, I think, like dropped his fork or something like that, and he was like, "Oh, dang it!" And I was like, "What? Where? Where'd you hear that?" And Collins was like, "Daddy, you say that." And I was like, "Oh man, yeah, you're probably right. I probably said, 'dang it.'" And not a terrible word, but like from a 3.5-year-old, like blurting out, "Ah, dang it," like you got to be careful what you say. So, just things like that with parenting, like how you allow your kids to hear and see what you do, as a parent, I think are super important.
Yeah, it's funny because yesterday I had a similar experience, much worse, I think. So our
Dad
kid, my
fail.
my kids are, yeah, right. My kids, they'll say like, so every time I call you, I'm like, "What's up, girl?" We do that, just like joke around. So my kids started doing that with like, I mean, and it's just not. It's just not. It's something that we do, and it's funny. We laugh like our whole. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
it's funny if people don't think that what we do on the podcast is real. Like, I mean, it's times 10. When we every
When we
time we
aren't
pick up the
recording.
phone, when we aren't recording, we singing to each other, singing to our team. Like, we always do this stupid stuff, right? And a lot of it is funny, a lot of it is positive, but they don't have the filter to know when to like when Erica or when I'm like, "Hey, buddy, you know, blah blah blah, don't do this," and he's like, what's up, girl? I'm like, not appropriate. But at dinner, and I don't know if my kids have heard me say this, and they must have. But we always do the Joe thing, like, hey, Joe called me. Oh, who's Joe? Joe Mama, huh? You know, and so at dinner last night, my mom said something. I don't know what she said, and Jake was like, "Yo, mama." I'm like, "What'd you say, boy?" And Maya pipes in and she goes, "Daddy, you say that."
Yeah.
And I was like, "I don't recall saying that in front of you, but I say it. You know, we say it all the time,
Yeah.
and
They hear you say
and
it
and
when
they
you're
have
when we're
heard
on the
me.
phone.
They've heard me say it to somebody, or even to my wife, like just messing around. And I try to be conscious of not saying stuff like that. Like, is it inherently terrible? No. Is it appropriate for a 8-year old to say to his grandma? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
At least not for me. And so, but it's. I think you make a great point because they are sponges, man, and they say the stuff. And a lot of kids, that one of the kids, neighbor kids, came to our house the other day and was like, they had met, Jake had met some other boy with him, and that boy left, and the neighbor kid said, yeah, he kind of talks naughty, and I don't know what that means. I don't know these kids, but what came out from some of the parents is this kid that left is an only child, and I guess his parents just talk very freely in front of him and say words that are not appropriate, and then he comes and repeats them, right? And
Yeah.
you hear it, and dude, they say it all the time, to the point that kids are at the park are dropping f bombs, and you're like, man,
Right.
where'd you learn that? Well, you know where you learned it. You learned it at home.
Yeah.
And so, dude, if it's just, again, it's that active part of parenting. It's a purposeful thing to parent, and whether you do it or not, whether you're purposeful or not, your kids are picking up and they're going to do it. And it sounds so obvious, but it doesn't hit you until your son says "Yo, mama" at the dinner table. To
Or your son like farts on his, kindergarten teacher because his dad was farting on him and thought it was
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, yeah. That's definitely
Yeah.
that's. I want to make sure that everybody remembers that's a you
Yeah.
thing, not a me thing. Um,
Dad fail.
but yeah, but I mean, even like little, and I did it with Maya. She's my most mature, but we're walking to the mailbox yesterday. I'm like, Maya, pull my finger. And I know because she
Yeah.
is like, Daddy, no, I know what you're going to do. And I'm like, Maya, come on, come on. And I just tease her. But the boys, I can't do that with them
Right.
because they're going to they're going to go do that same thing at school. And,
They're
and
gonna
while that
tell
might,
their teacher to pull his finger.
and while it might be hilarious, it just maybe isn't appropriate.
Yeah. It's gonna get him in detention.
Yeah. Right. But I think the whole point is it's all these things. I think it's just a good reminder, right? I don't think we're telling anybody anything they don't know, but I think it's a good reminder. It's a good conversation. It's a good point of accountability, and and especially we're on the same time zone. Like if we're texting each other or calling people or whatever, setting up meetings at 5 o'clock at night, like we should check each other on that,
Yeah.
right? That's just a no go. Right now, it's so much harder because of the time zones. But when I'm back in Colorado, like there's just things that we have to be very intentional to set those conditions so our kids are paying attention, or because they are paying attention and they know they're a priority.
Right.
and
Yeah.
and it's I think it's just an important point. So that's a great point you made, which
Yeah,
is
man.
really shocking because
Dude, I
typically I
have
don't make.
all kinds of good ideas, like all kinds of good points that I make all the time, every
and
day.
and the way you really frame that was so just well thought out,
Yeah.
very articulate. I got good things going on in here, and
Yeah,
stuff and
man.
things in my brain, my little pea brain. Well, this is good, man. I think this was something that, as I was really, this book was something that prompted me to to just consider more deeply, and probably a long drive and thinking through things. But really was, um, I called you and was like, hey man, I think we should just talk about this parenting thing and just some of the things, just give people I don't, not ideas, because I don't think I'm a great parent, and I don't think, I'm surely not the authoritative source of parenting ideas, but I do think you and I are very intentional people, and we're self-aware enough to know that, at least I know where, well, I don't know all the areas I fail, but oftentimes I'm like, man, I could have done that a lot better. I'm a reactionary person in a lot of ways when it comes to emotions. My son Jake, just he knows all my buttons to push, and we're
Yeah.
probably similar because we're both, we can be explosive in our emotions and our anger, and oftentimes I leave those, I have to remind myself he's 8, and like, where's he learning? Is he learning those behaviors from me? And what's that going to do to him in the future? And how are we helping each other to regulate? And um and I just think one is to encourage our listeners, like, hey man, if you're engaged and you love your kids and they're a priority, you're doing a great job. but
Yeah.
but can we do better? Absolutely, 100%.
Always.
And a lot of times we get better, just like with our masterminds that drive our entrepreneurial spirit. Our network also offers us a ton of ways to be better human beings, to be better parents, and to be more self-aware, and also to give us ideas, because we know, but nobody has a monopoly on how to be a good dad ideas, right? Like,
Yeah.
and as you expand your network and you're intentional about finding out how people are doing some parenting stuff, you realize, man, there's some people doing some awesome, awesome things. You also realize you have something to offer. Maybe you should share some of your ideas on the things that you're doing as a dad. Like that book, I've never heard of that book before that you guys do,
Yeah.
but but and a lot of times the way people do money management with their kids, like there's some great ideas out there with the piggy banks and the giving and the how to inspire. All these things are important to us. Well, there's tools for that, and unless you talk about it or seek it out, then you just don't know. And I just think that's why this conversation is important. And I love hearing other ideas on how to be a better dad, because who, I mean, I'm sure there are people out there that don't really want to be better dads or husbands, you know and that's okay. That's, it is what it is. But I think the vast majority of people want to be better human beings, better dads, better husbands. And um, you know, any ideas that we can contribute to that are, I think, are powerful. And I love receiving that as well. So
Yeah, man. It's good stuff, dude. Well, I think for our listeners, hopefully this at least gets your mind thinking a little bit about parenting for all the moms and dads out there. Um, hey, share this podcast if it's something that you heard that you really liked. Tell somebody else about it. Um, and man, we would incredibly appreciate like sharing it, taking a post, screenshot, like posting on your social medias, telling somebody that you love, that you think might get something out of it. That'd be pretty cool. Um,
yeah, reach out to us if there's resources too, right? Like, we'd
yeah,
love to. I mean, if anything, if you didn't take anything away, this book is an awesome book. It's very entertaining, but it's powerful, and it'll inspire. I mean, it's intended for to be thought provoking, and to be, to give you an opportunity to talk with your kids. And like I said, at the end of the book, there's discussion questions, and they're very tailored towards having a conversation with your children, and um, engaging, and they're deep topics, man. I mean, even for for an adult. I mean, I went and Googled Tourette's just to understand a little bit more, and what a debilitating thing that is, and how how to show empathy, and be that. Like, I tell you, I imagine my kid on the playground going up to that kid, right? Whoever that kid is, if
right.
it's if it's a overweight kid, if a kid has Tourette's, no arms, no leg, whatever it is, and to go give them honor and dignity and respect, and to build them up, because They're people and they have something that, everybody has something that can make us better, and
Yeah.
everybody has something to offer, and it's amazing. And and I want my kid to be the one that's not afraid to go up and show love, right? And to go up and be the kid that honors other people, and do that. Is that a huge goal? Yeah, but you can lay the framework for that.
Yep.
You can influence that. So this is just a way to do that, just talking about it.
Love it, buddy.
Yeah, man.
Let's go
Yeah,
be better
man.
dads.
Let's go be better dads, dude.
Have a lot of work to do, but hey,
Dude, I'll tell you, since we started this podcast this morning, I've been an amazing dad.
yeah, I've been. They've been sleeping,
They've been sleeping.
and you've been really, really good.
I'm here and protecting the house, uh, and making sure that they're safe as they sleep. When they wake up, totally different story. But right now I'm winning.
Nice job, brother. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, man. Thanks. You have an amazing day, my friend.
You too, dude.
Crush it.
Guys and gals, hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, go share it. Um, give us a review on iTunes. We'd greatly appreciate that. And most importantly, go fill your storehouse.
And if you're not an Apple person and you've liberated yourself from the iTunes, you can
Oh,
also leave it on Castbox, Google, or any other platform
yeah.
if you'd like.
Good call. Good call.
And most importantly, after filling your storehouse,
Yeah.
make it a great day.
See ya.
Shit.